colleagues concerned to talk about sacrifice, and you talked about not selling anyone out, but how is this not selling out LGBT Anglicans? You're going to sacrifice their relationships and vocations, and that's what we're talking about here, and they're not in the room.
You want to respond to that?
Well, that's why I, you know, as I said earlier, we have to find a person or a team or whatever to go around, you know, to visit and talk face to face with all these parties concerned and trying to find out, you know, to what extent they were willing to sacrifice, you know, before we can come up with a solution.
Yes, I don't think that we are, certainly they, I have to think of it, there certainly were gay people at least involved in these conversations. That question of selling out and moving forward on the back of another is one that greatly perplexes me, and one for which I have great sensitivity. And it is a good question. All I can say at this point is a commitment to minimize the impact of something that I do upon another person.
Thank you, George.
George Conger, Church of England newspaper, for either of the guests today. It's been my privilege and misfortune of covering these things for 10, 12 years. At every meeting I come to, we have a discussion of process and how we're going to have this next committee, and this next committee will take us to another point. We're seeing something like that come again. What time frame is acceptable? I mean, how long is too long in conversation?
Can I respond to that initially? It's hard to say. Let me tell you about one idea that was floated in my Indaba group. This may or may not achieve support depending on what comes from other Indaba groups, but you're quite right to say that a lot of time and attention over the last 10 or 12 years on this issue has been devoted to process questions. How do we stay in communion as far as possible with these differences? It seems to a number of us that a gap has been working in a communion-wide way on the issues of substance, about the rightness or wrongness of blessing same-sex unions and ordaining people in active gay relationships. So the proposal that's bubbled up in the in my group, and in an attempt to make the moratoria acceptable to people, was to establish a communion-wide biblical and theological commission, which might work, say, from the next ACC meeting in May next year for a period of 3 years and report to the following ACC meeting. A further suggestion was that that commission might move around, as Archbishop Paul has suggested, move around the provinces and conduct hearings to hear the stories of people, those on both sides of the debate who have felt hurt or marginalised. So in that way, it might incorporate something of the kind of truth and reconciliation process that was so effective in South Africa, and build understanding and respect. When the Commission reports, it would then have to be received. There'd be a process of reception in the provinces. So the Commission would report to the ACC, but then each of the provinces would need to make up its mind about whatever recommendations might be made in such a report. And that might build on the depth of engagement and understanding and listening that's been established at the Lambeth conference. Realistically, such a commission still might not solve all the problems. It might not achieve consensus, but it seems to a number of us that it's an effort that ought to be pursued and we'd be no worse off in 3 years' time than we are now. Now, whether that flies or not, who knows? It's a flag that's been run up the flagpole. We'll see if anybody salutes. But a number of ideas of that sort, and other quite diverse ideas, have bubbled up through the Indaba groups this morning. Do you want to say anything, Charles, in relation to the question? Concentrating on process and what's different.
Israel,
How long, oh Lord?
Well, I think you better keep your walking shoes on, because we still got a while in the desert to go. And I think what I would suggest to the church is that let's stay in shape, because we're going to be walking for a while. And I'm not sure, George, that this is going to have a technical fix. I'm not sure that a commission is going to find a consensus. The fix may well be adaptive.
Yes, sir.
Bishop Jenkins, I'm sorry, Matt Kennedy from Stanford Faith. Bishop Jenkins, you said that your impression was that all sides are willing to live within the moratoria.
That is correct in the Indaba group in which I attend.
Okay. There's been some confusion about the distinction between authorizing rights for same-sex unions and actually allowing same-sex unions to take place. Is it your understanding that those in your Indaba group are willing to halt all same-sex unions taking place, or just stop any sort of rights from being created?
I have no impression on that one way or the other, Matt. We didn't go there.
Okay.
You, madam? Yes.
Yes. I want to go back, please, to the notions of sacrifice and concession, since Christianity is, of course, built on the potential holiness of sacrificing. What I wonder is, do you see a difference between sacrificing oneself on behalf of others and requiring others to sacrifice themselves on your behalf? And if you do see a difference, then what are the implications of that for even a 3-year moratorium on the lives and vocations of gay and lesbian people?
Yes, I think there is a big difference, and that difference is certainly obvious. I think our Bible study reading for this morning indicated that when the nation requires one to be sacrificed for the sake of the nation, that's very different than one offering oneself. And so I think that you're pointing to a moral dilemma that is a dilemma for me.
We have a Chinese saying, you know, the little we, W-E, has to sacrifice for the big we. In a sense that, you know, for the sake of the well-being or the benefit, the interest, the best interest of the big we, the little we has to make any sacrifice or any concession. You know, they are willing to.